Alien Isolation is a 2014 survival horror game developed by Creative Assembly and published by Sega for PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, Windows, Xbox 360, and Xbox One. Based on the Alien films series, the game is set 15 years after the events of the original 1979 film, and follows engineer Amanda Ripley, daughter of Alien protagonist Ellen Ripley, as she investigates the disappearance of her mother aboard the space station Sevastopol. Once inside, Amanda discovers that the station has fallen into disarray due to an alien creature on the loose and must find a way to escape. The game emphasizes stealth and survival horror gameplay, requiring the player to avoid, outsmart, and fight enemies with tools such as a motion tracker and flamethrower. Alien Isolation is a single-player action-adventure game with an emphasis on stealth and survival horror. The player controls Amanda Ripley from a first-person perspective and must explore a space station and complete objectives while avoiding, outsmarting, and defeating enemies. Objectives range from activating computers to collecting certain items or reaching a specific area. Dead by Daylight is an online asymmetric multiplayer survival horror video game developed and published by Canadian studio Behavior Interactive. Force known as the Entity, while the survivors have to avoid being caught and power up the exit gates by working together to fix 5 generators. It is a 1 versus 4 game in which one player takes on the role of a killer and the other for play as survivors. The killer must hunt and impale each survivor on sacrificial hooks to appease a malevolent. The game was released for Windows in 2016, 3 for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One in 2017, for 5.6 for Switch in 2019, and for Android, iOS, PlayStation 5, Stadia, and Xbox Series X in 2020. 7 It became Steam Deck Verified B in 2023. 8 Swedish studio Starbreeze Studios published the game on behalf of Behavior from 2016 until 2018. When Behavior bought the publishing rights, 910 Italian company 505 Games publishes the Nintendo Switch version, while Austrian company Deep Silver publishes physical copies for the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series XS versions. Dead Space is a science fiction horror franchise created and directed by Glenn Schofield. Dead Space was developed by Visceral Games and published and owned by Electronic Arts. The franchise's chronology is not presented in a linear format. Each installment in the Dead Space franchise is a continuation or addition to a continuing storyline, with sections of the storyline presented in prequels or sequels, sometimes presented in other media from the originating video game series, which includes to films and several comic books and novels. The Dead Space games franchise follow the survival horror genre, with the player character visible at all times. All menu interfaces are diegetic, produced by the character's resource integration gear spacesuit for ease of communication with other characters. For instance, the character's hit point meter, built into the spine of his suit, is intended to allow co-workers to monitor his health, and when the character moves into depressurized areas, a readout on his back displays his remaining seconds of oxygen. Resident Evil Village is a 2021 survival horror game developed and published by Capcom. It is the sequel to Resident Evil 7, Biohazard 2017, and the 10th main game of the Resident Evil series. Players control Ethan Winters, who searches for his kidnapped daughter in a village filled with mutant creatures. Like its predecessor, Resident Evil 7, Biohazard, Resident Evil Village uses a first-person perspective and has the option for a third-person perspective. It is set in a snowy, explorable European village, described as pulled straight from the Victorian era and much larger and more immersive than its predecessor. 2 structures and buildings in the central village can be climbed and used to fight enemies. 2 Compared to Biohazard, the game is more action-focused, with protagonist Ethan Winters equipped with more combat skills due to military training. The game's primary enemies The werewolf-like lycans are agile and intelligent and can wield weapons and attack in packs. Outlast is a 2013 first-person survival horror video game developed and published by Red Barrels. The game revolves around a freelance investigative journalist, Miles Upshur, who decides to investigate a remote psychiatric hospital named Mount Massive Asylum, located deep in the mountains of Lake County, Colorado. In Outlast, the player assumes the role of investigative journalist Miles Upshur as he navigates a dilapidated psychiatric hospital in Leadville, Colorado that is overrun by homicidal patients. 5. The game is played from a first-person perspective and features some stealth gameplay mechanics. 6. The player can walk, run, crouch, jump, climb ladders, and vault over objects. 7. Unlike most games, however, the player does not have a visible health bar on the screen and is unable to attack enemies. Outlast was released on September 4, 2013 for download through Steam, and it was released on February 4, 2014 for the PlayStation 4 as the free monthly title for PlayStation Plus users.